Hello everyone, it's Brenda from Creative Treats Club. Thank you ever so much for joining me for another video. Today we are making, I'm just going to change it over to me for a second. Sorry, I thought I had it all lined up properly. So today we are making chocolate coconut truffles, and I have the ingredients all here ready to go. So I'm just going to launch right in and get started, and I'll explain a little bit about the context for why I'm doing this as we go along. As far as ingredients go, you can see the recipe right here, and I will upload these instructions over to the Creative Treats Community Facebook group, so you can go over there and download them from there. But what we have here is a half a can of coconut milk. This also works with coconut cream. This coconut milk seems to be on 600 milliliters. It has 10 grams of fat. So I did notice that if you are using a coconut cream rather than a coconut milk, the percentage of fat is a little bit higher, but this is what I have in the house, and this seemed to work equally fine as the coconut milk or coconut cream did another time that I made it. Other ingredients is I already have my chocolate here. I have these little discs. Sorry, I forget the right word. I am doing more research on truffles, and there is a word for these, and I will start using that once I do a better job of remembering what it is. I have those already weighed out. It is about it's about 10.5 ounces, 300 grams, which I think was, what did I put on the recipe here? Did I mark that down? About 1 3/4 cup of wafers. What else? Oh, a tablespoon of coconut oil, a quarter teaspoon of vanilla, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of vanilla. I should have just let you read it. Anyway, I have warmed this up in the microwave. What I've done is I've warmed it up right in this container, which is going to add a little bit of heat to the container. And what I'm hoping will work this time, unlike the last time that I did this video, is that when I add my chocolate to it, although it's already started to cool down. I should have got on with this a little bit sooner, talk less. I'm just putting the chips in there. If you do not, while I say chips, I meant the discs, because you don't in general want to be using chocolate chips in your truffles, because chocolate chips are designed to hold their shape and have things in them that allow them to bake better without burning. So they are not the best choice for truffles. You should either use a semi-sweet or bittersweet chocolate bars like blocks, or these discs that you can get, and you should have them really no bigger than about this. Like if you have it in a bar, you should chop it down to about almond size or so, and you want them to be fairly equally sized so that they will melt at an even consistency. So what we do is we let them sit here for a little bit, and then we will be stirring them together. I wanted to show you that after this is formed, it's going to make a nice glossy batter, almost ganache, I guess is the better term for it. And this is a little bit how it looks like coming out of the fridge. What I do is you can scoop it out with a spoon when we're rolling it, and I will be doing this a little bit later. But what I like to do is I actually like to just cut it into squares about the size that I want right ahead of time, and I find that is a little bit easier to pick up and to get out of the container when I'm doing the rolling, and it just helps because your hands get pretty goopy, so it helps a little bit to streamline the rolling process as far as I'm concerned. Now I'm going to start to stir this up. What the research has been telling me is that it's best to start stirring from the middle and then gradually go out, so that's what I'm going to try to do here right now. My friend Daniel, the truffle making expert that I am working with on our cookbook, has said that it is best to not overstir it because you can get bubbles into it, which aren't totally ideal. So this is starting to come together a little bit. And the cookbooks I've been reading on it tell you to kind of stir from the center and then gradually go out a little bit. So I'm hoping that all of these chocolate discs are going to melt together properly. And what I have been able to do in the past is when they don't, you do want to put this into an oven-proof dish. You can either put the chocolate in and then add, for example, some people, which I've done, I wouldn't warm up in a plastic measuring cup, but you can use a glass measuring cup, and you can then, in the microwave, or you could heat your coconut milk in this case, or when you're making just regular ones, cream, you can heat that up in a double boiler as well, or in a pot on the stove. I don't know, the jury seems to be out a little bit on boiling or not, because a couple of recipes that I've read have actually said to bring the cream to a boil. Daniel had told me, the gentleman that the chocolatier, is that right? Chocolatier, that he learned from had indicated that you really shouldn't bring the cream to a boil. So I've brought it to a boil and it hasn't separated on me, but that is something that can happen. It can separate apparently. So you'll want to watch for that. I think I haven't made it quite warm enough. So what I'm going to have to do is, you do want to get everything all creamed together. So I'll finish this off camera. But once that is all creamed together, I am going to add in the coconut cream and the salt and vanilla that I have measured out here, and then I'm going to put that into the fridge. Sorry I can't show you the whole thing, but I don't want to have a gap in this like I had to do last time. Should have got started a little bit earlier to have that extra heat left. But you can see, I'll bring it up, it's getting really nice and dark and creamy. So that is how the ganache is formed. One thing just that I was going to mention here, I don't know exactly how it will apply for the coconut oil, which is a solid at room temperature, but I've been reading up, and what they tell you, when you are adding butter into regular truffles with cream, it actually suggests that you wait until it's not warm enough to melt the butter when you mix it in, and that you want the butter to be at room temperature so that your ganache and your butter blend together, that the butter does not melt into it. And I don't know if you can do that, because I don't know, coconut oil seems to be a little bit harder at room temperature to me. And if you don't want to melt it, I'm not quite sure how you would get that to the appropriate temperature. That's just a tip or thought for consideration for you. All right, so what I am going to do is, one thing I wanted to mention on the coconut before, what I've done is, you can do a few things. I've just taken some regular sweetened coconut, here you have it, and chopped it up in my food processor. It's actually really good for when you're making the coconut truffles, if you will toast the coconut first, either in a pan on top of your stove or in the oven. You need to be careful because it will burn pretty quickly. But if you put it on a really low temperature like I did last time, it seemed to take forever. So I'm still experimenting a little bit with the ideal way to toast the coconut. But that makes a really nice coating, or you can just use this if you didn't have the time to do the toasting of it. It's also really good to put some of this in the batter. You could put it in like ahead of time right now, or I've also sometimes rolled half of mine just to be the smoother without the texture of the toasted or regular coconut in it. And then the other half, I will add some coconut right into the batter to make it even more coconutty, rather than just using the coconut for rolling. And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and the reason that I really discovered that I'd like to have it mixed in is, of course, I had some extra coconut that got a bit chocolatey from the rolling, so I thought I might as well mix it in. So that was how I did that. All right, now I wanted to talk to you about the peanut butter ones that we made recently that I had in my fridge, and now I'm rolling. So I have here, I took whole roasted peanuts and chopped them. These are a little bit on the salty side, so depending on how much salt you want, you may want to use a mixture of salted and unsalted, or just use unsalted and add the amount of salt that you want, particularly if you are going to if you want the crunch of extra peanuts, either if you started with smooth peanut butter or even crunchy peanut butter, you can add some in, but I'd be careful on the salt. Okay, so as I say, when I go to roll them, I pre-cut them, but you can just scoop out with a spoon, and I just roll them in a ball, and it is going to get kind of chocolatey on my hands. What I like to do is I like to roll and dip pretty much right away, because I find that the heat of your hands makes it a little bit soft on the surface, and that is a little bit grippy then of the coating. So I'll just do another one here, and I try to make them all a similar size. Over time you will get used to what is a good quantity. As I'm developing the recipes, I'm going to have to go back and count the number of truffles that I am getting. I also I'll measure the whole contents of the ganache, and that will be able to allow me to tell in our recipes the quantity that you get based on different size. I have made a lot of different sizes of boxes to go with this, either small, medium, or large, and the boxes are either at a 1 1/8 or a 1 1/4 or 1 3/8 depth, depending on the size of truffle, because I was just playing around a little bit with the boxes and with the truffles to see what I liked best. But I have settled on the ones I think most people find a huge truffle a little bit much to eat. If they're smaller, you can try a few different flavors if you want. So this is about the size that I tend to do. I find if you do have an extra person working with you, it's quite nice to have one person doing the rolling, particularly if you don't want the texture from your coating to work its way into your truffles, if you want a really smooth truffle. I found it worked really well when I did a workshop over at my mom's retirement home, where I was just doing the rolling and putting in here, and then someone else, my mom or some of the other residents, were just going through and doing the coating of them, either with a spoon like that, or what I think could work, haven't tried this yet, but I'm going to try it right now, is I think this one is a little bit big, but I think having a pair of tongs like this would be really good to kind of do the rolling at the same and pressing at the same time, and then you could keep your hands smaller. I'm going to investigate getting some smaller tongs for that purpose, or for that reason. And that is how they look, and then I will be doing a video next after this to show you how to make the box that is showing right there on the screen. It is sized at about 4 by 4 by 1 1/8, or it might be 1 1/2, sorry, 1 1/4, because I think I might have sized it to allow a card to fit right inside for when you give it away. And with that, I am going to see if I can try to stop this video without getting too much of my chocolate onto my mouse. Thanks ever so much for watching. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye bye.